During the past year, we have made notable progress in strengthening the foundations of peace and freedom abroad and at home. We have taken important steps in securing the North Atlantic community against aggression. We have continued our successful support of European recovery. We've returned to our established policy of expanding international trade through reciprocal agreement. We have strengthened our support of the United Nations. While great problems still confront us, the greatest danger has receded. The possibility which faced us 3 years ago that most of Europe and the Mediterranean area might collapse under totalitarian pressure. Today, the free peoples of the world have new vigor and new hope for the cause of peace.
That was President Harry Truman's State of the Union speech in 1950, detailing how the United States laid the foundations of the post-World War II order. It's something Joe hones in on in his new book, which is out today, entitled Saving Freedom: Truman, the Cold War, and the Fight for Western Civilization. And joining us now to discuss Truman's influence and impact on today's international system, President of the Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haass, and U.S. National Editor at the Financial Times, Ed Luce. And Joe, we've been talking so much about Truman and how much he was underestimated and derided. Talk about how that happened in your own family. Your mom could be a bit derisive at times.
That's one way to put it. No, well, you know, it's so interesting. We've been talking about how the press barons of Manhattan and the Washington insiders looked down on Harry Truman. But Harry Truman also had difficulty with Americans. Obviously, when he left the White House, he had a 22% approval rating. My family were dyed-in-the-wool Democrats, yellow dog Democrats, as we call them in the South. And they were from Dalton, Georgia, and worshipped FDR. My mom was born in really the heart of the Great Depression in 1932. And they would not have survived without FDR, without the New Deal. I remember asking her later, when I became a Truman fan, what they thought of Harry Truman. Because, you know, here's a guy, here's a country guy, a farmer, a Baptist, and a Democrat just like them. And my mom just sort of laughed and said, well, you know, old Harry, I don't think he was up to the task. He's kind of a simple country guy. And again, that's a Democrat and a Baptist and a group of farmers talking that way about Harry Truman. But Richard Haass, that's, for me, for Truman, I think one of the most extraordinary things is how he was underestimated in his own time. And even for 20, 30 years later, it wasn't until maybe the mid-'80s, if I'm remembering correctly, that historians started to take a second look at Truman and started saying he was a near great or a great president. It's extraordinary what this man from Missouri accomplished in 2 or 3 years.
That's exactly right, Joe. He wasn't a national figure when he got chosen as vice president. He then became president very early on, given FDR's death. And at the time, almost like Rodney Dangerfield, he didn't get a whole lot of respect. And as every decade goes on, he actually is seen as one of the great foreign policy presidents in American history. I would argue he's the greatest of the post-World War II presidents when it came to foreign policy. So my question for you is almost going back to Mark Twain, that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. What rhyming, you know, in the course of writing this book, what rhyming do you see between Harry Truman, what he did when he became president with the Marshall Plan, and the rest of the post-World War II order? What, if any, rhyming do you see between that and today?
I see a lot. First of all, 12 presidents between Harry Truman and Barack Obama followed the same international analytical construct. I mean, every president that strode around the world stage, they were walking around on a stage where Harry Truman George Marshall, Dean Acheson, George Kennan, Averell Harriman, they built the architecture and built the structure of that stage. We've moved away from that over the past 4 years, where we've had a president who's been very contemptuous of our NATO allies, we've had a president who's been very engaging and I think most of us would say overly warm in a concerning sort of way towards Russia's leader, an ex-KGB agent, and has not respected the international order that benefited America. So Joe Biden is going to have that task to sort of rebuild those relationships. I think he's going to be able to do that. I think also you had Harry Truman in 1945 after he took over, had a lot of challenges with a country coming back from war, an uncertain future. Joe Biden is facing, wasn't really facing the war that Harry Truman had to end in 1945, but he is fighting a battle against a pandemic that right now is raging across middle America. We have an uncertain economy. We now, of course, have some people on Wall Street who are expecting the first quarter of 2021 to take a dip. So there's an uncertain economic future as well.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.